Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vade, aka Pro Benchwarmer, and welcome to another episode of Boxed Benchwarmers, this series where we discuss every incomplete archetype in Duel Links, their relative history within our meta, and what cards they need to become competitive. Now, if you're enjoying this series, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more weekly content. Now, today we're talking about an archetype that sees literally no play in Duel Links, but has a lot of play seen in the TCG, and this archetype is Lightsworns. These are monsters that send cards straight from the deck to the graveyard, and this is actually useful in the TCG because they have a lot of cards like Fairy Tale Snow, Mizuki, and so on and so forth that have better effects in the graveyard than they do on the field or in the hand, and you want to send them straight from the deck to the graveyard so you don't have to run into the fumbly hassle of having them in the hand and trying to find a way to get them straight to the graveyard. It's similar to Sylvan's wanting to mill Rose Lover than have Rose Lover in the hand, so you understand for people who just play Duel Links. Now, Lightsworns in the TCG can be splashed into a lot of archetypes, or you can say a lot of archetypes can be splashed into Lightsworns because a lot of archetypes like having cards in the graveyard because the graveyard is kind of like a second deck. Archetypes like zombies or dinos really like their cards being put in the graveyard because they have extra effects in the graveyard that can actually plus in monsters on the field. So what can they do in Duel Links? Now, with Duel Links having a smaller deck, whether it be 20 or 30 cards as compared to 40 and 60 cards in the TCG, they actually mill you out faster now in Duel Links than they do in the TCG. However, when we got the pack, I think it's it's Burst, Primal Burst. There you go. When we got Primal Burst, we got introduced to a couple Lightsworns that just don't do anything. Like, they don't really have good effects, they don't really utilize the graveyard that they're sending cards to, so it's just not that useful, and because of that, Lightsworns do not see any play in our meta. However, recently there has been a Archfiend deck that used Lila. Let me click the card so you guys can read along with me. Lila, the Lightsworn sorceress, in the deck, because it can target a spell or trap that your opponent controls, change the battle position of this card and pop that card. You change this to defense position, and then you send the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. This is used in Archfiend decks because Archfiends don't want to be in the hand if you're going to be using Call of the Archfiend. If you're using Call of the Archfiend, you want the Archfiends to already be in the graveyard so you can discard to get a Archfiend monster on the field. This makes the deck a little more consistent, but a lot of those builds have been getting rid of this card in favor of Needlebug Nest, because Needlebug Nest does the same without wasting your normal summon. So that's the most history that Lightsworns have in Duel Links, is just that one card. So it goes to show you that Lightsworns in Duel Links have not been good, which leads me to think, what cards do Lightsworns need to actually become competitive? Now, I posed this question in my Discord. The link will be in the description, where we actually brainstorm these episodes up throughout the week, which is why it's weekly. I need a lot of time to do some research and watch some videos on these archetypes, but we didn't really come up with individual cards from the Lightsworn archetype that are needed like I've done for the last 2 episodes, but we more so come up with 3 different, actually overarching topics that Lightsworns need in order to actually become competitive. The first one we all agreed on is actually better Lightsworn monsters. I put Lumina, the Lightsworn summoner, here just as an example, because Lumina says once per turn you can discard 1 card, then target 1 level 4 or lower Lightsworn monster in the graveyard, special summon that target. That is amazing because from 1 card you discard a card, which if it's a Lightsworn you can actually special summon it off this effect, but you get 2 cards on the field just by having this card in a discard. That's really good, and then you can actually discard a card that have a better effect in the graveyard, like Skill Successor, that you can actually get an attack boost on your turn when attacking. Of course it would have to be the next turn, but I'm just putting it there. It's a really good card. I believe that this card is used in the TCG as well. Also, other Lightsworn monsters like Ryu, which when it flipped up you can destroy a card in the field and then excavate the deck. You also have Wolf, which needs to be summoned by a card effect, which we have Photon Lead in Duel Links, and also other it also says when it's sent to the graveyard, you just special summon it. So all the Lightsworns can have a possibility of milling a wolf and special summoning a wolf, which is great because it's a 21 attack body. I'll leave the list of other Lightsworn monsters on the left hand side, since I don't really have the luxury of putting all the monsters that are needed in Duel Links on the right hand side, so you guys can research them up. But I show you that we need a lot of Lightsworn monsters because the ones that we have just ain't cutting it. Now the next thing I want to talk about in topic of Lightsworn monsters is Judgment Dragon, their actual boss monster. Now this is a bit controversial when we started talking about it in the Discord, because I said it might be too broken for Duel Links, but then I started really thinking about it. Now I'm going to read the effect and tell you what I think about it. So the effect says it cannot be normal summon or set, must be special summon from your hand by having 4 more Lightsworn monsters with different names in your graveyard. You can pay 1,000 life points to destroy all cards on the field, and then during the end phase you mill 4 cards from your deck straight to the graveyard. So this is a really beefy monster that just gets special summoned by having other Lightsworns in the graveyard, which is easy because all the Lightsworns mill the deck, so you can actually put a lot of Lightsworns in the graveyard and then summon Judgment Dragon. Now it doesn't say you can only summon 1 Judgment Dragon, so you can summon multiple Judgment Dragons, and then the effect of paying 1,000 life points and then nuking your opponent's field, or nuking the field, is actually incredibly easy to do, because I mean in Duel Links you only have 4,000 life points, so actually paying this off and then blowing up your opponent's field is amazing. However, the reason why I say it's not that broken in Duel Links because we have a lot of cards that change battle positions. Namely, you can let your opponent summon a Judgment Dragon, and then when they pay the cost, you can actually use Econ to put it in defense position, or use Windstorm or Curse of Anubis, or if you're running Machines Pulse Mines, and he paid 1,000 life points to nuke the field, but now he's in defense position so he can't attack, and then on your turn you could possibly Econ take or just destroy it with like Super Rush Headlong or so on and so forth. And if you Econ take and attack them with it, they just paid 1,000 life points, so that's actually lethal. Like you can actually Econ take, pay 1,000 life points yourself, blow up their field, and then attack them for lethal. So there's a lot of ways that you can play around Judgment Dragon. The TCG doesn't play cards like that. Like they have like more like Solemns and so on and so forth. They don't really have battle switching, battle changing cards that they use in the TCG, where we do in Duel Links. So with that being prevalent in our meta, I believe that Judgment Dragon wouldn't be that hard, because it's a really risky 1,000 life points to pop the field, because if you don't really get to attack, it can be used against you. Next topic I want to talk about is actually support cards in the form of spells. Lightsworns have some pretty cool support cards in Charge of the Light Brigade and Solar Recharge. Charge of the Light Brigade states send the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard, add 1 level 4 lower Lightsworn monster from your deck to your hand. Now this is great because, like I said before with Wolf, it special summons itself when sent to the graveyard, so if you actually activate Charge of the Light Brigade and mill a Wolf, you get a Wolf onto the field, and then you still get to add 1 level 4 lower Lightsworn monster from your hand to the graveyard, so you can actually add Lumina, summon Lumina, discard a card, and get another monster on the field, which is actually really good. It will actually make Lightsworns competitive. Now I think on the Discord I said that this can be used with like Radiating Light and stuff like that, Bastion skill, to get the lights, all these Lightsworns actually boosted up with 500 extra attack. But you know, there's other skills that can be used, like Ties That Bind or Grit, that actually make Lightsworns actually competitive. Also, Solar Recharge is another card that is kind of iffy. You send 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand to the graveyard, draw 2 cards, and then send the top 2 cards from your deck to the graveyard. So you actually thin your deck by 4 for drawing 2, and then you send 2 cards from your deck straight to the graveyard. So you actually can deck out really fast, and that's the main issue with Lightsworns and Duel Links in my eyes, is the fact that if you don't win by like turn 5, you have virtually no deck, because everything is being sent to the graveyard. And also, if you don't have cards in your deck that are better in the graveyard, like I said with Skill Successor and maybe Bacon Saver, this is just gonna kill you. Like, you have to kill your opponent really easily, which is why I said Judgment Dragon to kind of be justified, because by the time they get 4 Lightsworn names in the graveyard, I mean, they probably only have like 8 cards left in their deck, and if they summon Judgment Dragon, there goes the extra 4 cards from their deck straight to the graveyard, and if they can't win, they lose like within 2 turns. Like, it's that simple. So and also, you know, it gives us an out to stall players. If you have Judgment Dragon, just pop the whole field and just go in for game. But that's what I think about Lightsworns. Another thing that we brought up that we didn't really touch on for too long is like actually adding the Twilight Sworns. Twilight Sworns are dark monsters that are actually the I guess corrupted version of the Lightsworn monsters. I also put up Lumina again, but the Twilight Sworn version of her. So you understand that Lightsworns can send these to the graveyard, and now we have the option of Chaos decks with Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of Evening Twilight in our game, and also Dark Flare Dragon that can special summon themselves by having a light and a dark monster in the graveyard. This would be actually really cool to get off, because now it gives us special summons that we have access to that we pretty much don't use in Duel Links at all, because there's not a really good Chaos deck running around. Now with this stuff, and also equips Wyvern, and we can summon Dark Flare Dragon really easy. It gives us a reason to run Karibos plus Lightsworn plus a couple Twilight Sworns. And Twilight Sworns actually banish from the graveyard rather than like discard from the hand to activate kind of the same effects as the Lightsworn, their Lightsworn counterparts. So you can use like the banish zone now, and there's actually like things that you can run like premature return and stuff like that. It gets a lot more interesting when you have a lot more versatility with this deck. But that's my opinion. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below, and also in the description will be my Discord if you feel like joining. Have a great day. That's the end of this video, and it's a wrap.